Good morning, Marvel Rival nerds. My name is Judgment Monk, and welcome to Marvel Rivals by the Numbers. Today we're going over the Season 4 Hero Hot List tier list. By using the stats provided in the Marvel Rivals Heroes Hot List, we'll be ranking each hero for low rank, high rank, and pro play. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more Rivals content, and provide any feedback that you think would be helpful moving forward. Before we get started, I'd like to shout out GoPalVuli for calling me out in my last video for posting Season 3.5 tier list super late. So here we are days after the data drops to give the Season 4 tier list. With that said, let's get started on the lower rank side. In the S tier, we have Cloak, Rocket, Magic, and Angela. It seems Cloak and Dagger won't ever leave the top spot of the low rank tier list. Having over a 27% average pick rate, she's pretty much a lock for this position. A big shout out goes to Magic. She is averaging a 58% win rate and seeing much more play after all the changes she got this patch. And finally, I'd like to highlight Angela for seeing consistent play with a great win rate in the lower ranks. I do have to wonder, however, how much of this is actually Smurfs just trying her out. On to the A tier, we see our tank trio of Strange, Penny, and Thor continue to dominate the lower ranks. We also see an absurd rise to the top by Jeff the Landshark. Jeff has always had a high pick rate in the lower ranks, but now he's actually winning as that pick rate continues to climb. On to the B tier. This tier has consistently had the most heroes in it, and this time is no different. With Mantis, Ultron, Storm, Invis, Hulk, Emma, Luna, Iron Man, Hela, Moon Knight, Spidey, Bucky, and Magneto. Over half of our B tier heroes are actually repeat residents. However, we see Mantis, Ultron, and Luna drop down a tier due to the terror that is Jeff taking over. We also see a small rise in Moon Knight's pick rate and win rate, likely due to the buffs he received this patch. And with Phoenix gameplay falling more and more, Hela is seeing a rise in pick rate. Hela is also receiving a buff and a team up in Season 4.5, so we'll see just how high she actually climbs. On to the C tier. Similarly to the B tier, we see that 5 DPS characters in this tier are actually the same, but we see vanguards like Cap, Groot, and the Thing falling due to Angela eating up their pick rate. With the multitude of changes that came in the Season 4 balance adjustments, we saw a ton of movement in the quote-unquote desired direction for each one of these characters. However, that all changes when we find Blade in the D tier. Despite his buffs, he's seen much less play and a much lower win rate. This is to be expected, however. The newest characters will always see much less play once everyone is done trying them out, especially a character that's mid at best. And as for Torch, people are finally getting the hang of him, getting used to all of his controls, and he's receiving a nerf that should probably take him completely out of the meta. And lastly, the F tier. Loki, Wolf, Squirrel Girl, and Widow. I'm gonna hold my comments on Loki until we get to the high ranked side of the list. The rest of these are to be expected. Wolf has fallen off for the moment, as Angela is kinda stealing his niche, and Squirrel Girl got nerfed while already being at the bottom. And of course, Widow is Widow. And now we move on to the high ranked side of this tier list. Starting with the S tier, of course. This is the most crowded S tier I've seen in a while, but it's kinda warranted. We see Strange, Mag, Rocket, Magic, Luna, and Jeff. Strange has taken the spot of the statistically best character in the high ranked games, and I think I'll link his success with the major success of Magic after all the changes, and of course, the great team up that they share. And again, we see our little buddy Jeff taking over the meta. He's catching a ton of bans in the highest ranks, and probably even more in the pros. People are even calling for him to receive nerfs, but I don't think the headshot resistance nerf that he's receiving in Season 4.5 will be nearly enough. In the A tier, we see another 6 characters: Penny, Mantis, Angela, Invis, Hulk, and Cloak. Mantis is another menace in the game right now, due to the triple strategist comps seeing play everywhere. She's pretty much a DPS with the best engagement ult in the game, not to mention damage boost for the entire team, while supplying ample healing. This all makes her the optimal pick for triple support. Another shout out goes to Angela for seeing much more play than I was anticipating. She's even seen play in the pro level in the triple tank compositions. Obviously, there will be a major fall off next season, but I feel like the ones that become extremely proficient with her will be a pain for time to come. The B tier is going to contain a ton of acceptable picks, like Thor, Emma, Star-Lord, Venom, Storm, Cap, Ultron, and Hela. I feel like each one of these characters can be picked and dominate a lobby by themselves. But it is weird to see Emma this low on the list. Is Emma finally in line with the rest of the tanks? I personally don't think so. Just because the numbers show another drop in her pick rate and win rate, this may just be a placebo effect, and the perception may be worse than the reality. When we look at pro play, she's as rampant as ever. I would also like to give some flowers to Star-Lord, as he's been crawling his way back up into the meta and becoming one of the most dangerous and preferred picks in the Marvel Rivals Ignite tournament. On to the C tier. I'm going to continue to call this DPS hell, as we have Phoenix, Bucky, Iron Fist, Namor, Spider-Man, Torch, Psylocke, Groot, BP, Fantastic, Atom, and Moon Knight. I'm not going to spend too much time here, as most of these characters have received buffs or nerfs in the Season 4.5 update, and I want to hold off until I see where they land next video. So moving promptly into the D tier, there's only two characters, Iron Man and Punisher. I don't think either of them are bad per se, but I don't know what changes can be made without either one of them breaking the game. Both of these characters are easier to play and get a lot of value for not a ton of input, so maybe this is the perfect spot for them. And finally, we have the F tier, with 8 characters in this tier, starting off with Wolverine, Hawkeye, Scarlet Witch, The Thing, Blade, Loki, Widow, and the statistically worst character in the game, Squirrel Girl. This is where I can express my deepest condolences to all the Loki mains out there. This may be the worst slaughter job we've ever seen in this game's history. The prince has finally fallen from grace, and it may be a while before we see the comeback. I do believe that his kit is still crazy, so maybe the right changes around him can make him a bit more effective. That'll do it for the high rank tier list, and as I mentioned in the last video, I will be holding off on the biggest winners and losers until placement matches have been implemented in the game. But for all those who were looking forward to it, it shouldn't be a surprise that Jeff is our overwhelming biggest winner in both low and high elo, while Loki is our overwhelming biggest loser. And with that, we'll be moving on to the pro play inclusion portion of this video. Because I don't want to post this way past his best buy date, this data will only consider the EMEA group play in the Marvel Rivals Ignite tournament, as the American data is still being collected. However, I was able to compile data on the pick rates and ban rates of each character and add them into my high ranked statistical tier list. Without further ado, we're starting with the S tier. If you've watched the Marvel Rivals Ignite tournament at all, you know that a ton of the bans went towards taking care of the triple strategist meta. This time around, it was Mantis and Ultron that saw an almost 70% ban rate, and Adam and Jeff not too far behind. With all of those bans, along with Invis receiving some nice buffs to her ultimate, she was the most played character in the event at a 51% pick rate. Emma and Luna were slightly behind her at 49% pick rate. On to the A tier, we see a ton of characters that had standout performances in the MRI tournament. And for the umpteenth event in a row, Venom is showing out as the best Vanguard in the hands of the pros. With all the triple strategist compositions running around, Phoenix and Star-Lord were chosen as the preferred DPS to pick in the one DPS slot available. Human Torch was also picked in that position. However, he was still banned a good amount of the time, and there was multiple occasions where he wasn't picked, even if he was available. This mainly happened on convoy maps, where triple tank is the meta on defense, and Storm and Moon Knight are the preferred DPS options for offense. On to the B tier. This is where the more niche or specialist picks landed. For example, Bucky was played most often in 2-2-2 compositions, while Storm was chosen to break triple Vanguard setups, and Namor was of course chosen to pair with Hulk whenever he wasn't banned. As we move down the list, the influence from the MRI tournament gets lower and lower. Somehow, Fantastic and Iron Fist still made the C tier with 0 play from the MRI tournament, but the rest had a few chances to make their impact, and of course Punisher and Wolverine were on top of that list. but the very few instances of Black Panther are always more memorable. Shout out to Tanuki. The rest of the characters were mostly irrelevant, with Iron Man seeing a little bit of play by Knudsen from Team Vice, and the Thing was seldom seen in those triple Vanguard setups, but the rest really can't hold up according to the pros. With all that said, thank you so much for watching. This has been Judgment Monk with Marvel Rivals by the Numbers. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, as more Rivals content is sure to come.